Hello there guys and welcome, it is Neron here and today it is time for episode number 14 of our F1 2014 career mode. We are here under the floodlights of Singapore racing for Ferrari, but as you could see as I was stepping into the car, we are fully equipped with a wet set of tyres. As you can see outside it is raining and on the screen there is an 11% chance of rain, which means the rain will pretty much go within the first 3 or 4 laps. So it's going to be a changeable conditions race. It will end dry, but obviously we'll have to cycle through the wet tyres and intermediate tyres. There you can see the strategy on the screen. Not that it'll mean much due to those changeable conditions, so we'll probably ignore that throughout the race. And here you can see the teammate challenge. So under the floodlights here, that's already tricky enough, but now the wet conditions as well. We'll have to see whether it's yet another crazy Singapore Grand Prix. But before we get into what surely will be a crazy race, let's have a look at the qualifying report. Under the floodlights of Marina Bay, Romain Grosjean would be the shock fastest man in Q1 as a huge gulf was shown between primes and options. Jenson Button was second on primes from Jean-Eric Vergne's options showed Toro Rosso in third. Pastor Maldonado and Adrian Sutil were eliminated. Q2 would see a much more familiar sight as Lewis Hamilton was fastest from Daniel Ricciardo and Fernando Alonso. Jenson Button just sneaked through at the expense of Sergio Perez, whilst Bottas will be hugely disappointed with 13th. Rain fell at the end of the session, which changed the dynamic of Q3 completely. But despite the changeable conditions, there would be no change in pole sitter, as Lewis Hamilton took P1 by 900ths from teammate Rosberg. Sebastian Vettel took third, whilst winner of the last 2 Grand Prix Yusufu continued to impress in fourth, as conditions deteriorated towards the end of the session. So all of this means that Lewis Hamilton will take pole for the Singapore Grand Prix from teammate Nico Rosberg, Sebastian Vettel, Yusufu and Daniel Ricciardo in 5th. Nico Hülkenberg would take 6th from Kevin Magnussen, Felipe Massa, with a disappointed Alonso in 9th and Button 10th. So then a fairly surprising 4th on the grid given pace. Here you can see the pole man Lewis Hamilton as per usual. There we are sitting 4th on the grid and a pretty poor qualifying there for Fernando Alonso in 9th. It was a rain affected qualifying as well, only intermediate tyres required there, but we are on full wet tyres here for full wet conditions. The lights starting to illuminate. 5 are now on and they are now off after a long hold. It looks like a pretty poor start here in these wet conditions. Good start for Sebastian Vettel there to our right hand side and Daniel Ricciardo as well in the other Red Bull behind us down into turn 1. Very low visibility due to it being the night time of course, and of course the spray coming off the 3 cars in front of us, but down now into turn 3. Nothing really going down here. We're looking at the inside of Vettel, but he gets a much better drive, much better traction out of that turn 3. No incidents I don't think behind by the looks of things, although Kevin Magnussen appears to be the man right behind us now in 5th place, right up the backside there of Sebastian Vettel, which sounded horrendously wrong and it wasn't supposed to. I can now confirm it wasn't supposed to be wrong, but I know it did sound it. In the meantime, in our immediate future, Kevin Magnussen looking around our outside there as we go down the back straight, but we do just about hold on to that, although getting very, very out of shape there on exit from the corner, but it's looking alright so far. We started 4th, and we are still in 4th currently, so that's alright. There's a big gap developed already actually behind Kevin Magnussen, as you can see on the minimap. Not entirely sure what's going on there, but the top 5 have already escaped massively in this race. This 31 lap race, this will of course be one of the longest races on the calendar due to the nature of the track. It's about a 2-hour Grand Prix on 100% race distance, so on about 50% race distance. It should be an hour long. Probably one of the longest races. Well, it is the longest race, but it means, therefore, that it'll be the longest, one of the longest episodes. That's what I was trying to go for, but I said race instead of episode. You can probably tell that by the length of the video already, that it's going to be a fairly long one. My dirty mind is kicking into overdrive yet again, but we'll gloss over that now as we still maintain 4th. Lack of grip in places still, and we are starting to lose touch with the top 3 ever so slightly. A second and a bit gap now developed to the German in the Red Bull in front of us being Sebastian Vettel. We're still holding on there in front of Kevin Magnussen pretty well. Obviously our wet pace isn't going to be as good as our dry pace. That's just the nature of this game, but you know, doing an alright job. I think probably based on this game, Kevin Magnussen isn't the worst person to have right behind you. It could have been a lot worse. Daniel Ricciardo and Fernando Alonso were there as well, but oh my goodness gracious me, what on earth has happened there? Whilst I was babbling on about nothing in particular, we've been slammed into the wall. We've been auto-spun into a sticky wall. Do you understand? Do you realise how Codemasters that sentence is? We've literally been auto-spun into a sticky wall there on lap 1. Well, we've now lost the 4th place that we've done so well to hold on to on the first lap as Kevin Magnussen has now taken that position back. So the Dane having a very good race in the moment. We've got Nico Hülkenberg behind. So I don't know what's happened to Daniel Ricciardo. After a good getaway, he's dropped far down the order. Fernando Alonso looks as if he's around about 8th, I think, looking at the minimap. No, he's 9th. He's still 9th, so it's not looking like a good start so far for Ferrari. It's been fantastic recently. Brilliant form. Obviously in Monza getting that first and third. After what could have been a 1-2, but Lewis Hamilton ruining on the penultimate lap of the race. Not looking so good here, but there is a lot of time for things to change on lap 3. Just can't really get past Kevin Magnussen. There's not really much in terms of places on the track, but down the back straight there, it did look as if there was just an end fence there at the bottom of the straight. So might keep an eye on that. It looked like it said total on it, so that would have been Red Bull. So that could only have been Sebastian Vettel in front of us. So I'll keep an eye on that now as we move on to lap 7. Lewis Hamilton setting the fastest lap of the race. Kevin Magnussen starting to stretch a gap over us now. It's 1.4 seconds, but look at this. Down into turn 1, Magnussen has caught the two guys in front. Vettel and Rosberg, who'd built up about a 6-second gap now, have fallen back into the grateful arms of Kevin Magnussen and myself. Now down into turn 4, and Rosberg is holding up this trio, and which now includes myself, an absolute trio. There's obviously a group of 6 as well behind, currently being held up by Hülkenberg. So has Rosberg encountered some sort of issue here in Singapore? Who would have thought it? Now down into turn 4, and that is front wing. That is a whole front wing, and Sebastian Vettel has lost his front wing. He's clearly hit the back of Nico Rosberg, who is clearly struggling. Magnussen now trying to get past him as well. We have to turn out of the corner there very, very briefly to avoid Magnussen's back tyre, but Vettel now holding up the rest, an absolute treat behind it. That's Hülkenberg and a Williams there, Massa. Fernando Alonso trying to make a move on Massa in the Williams behind. Now down into the Singapore sling, and Rosberg still in front of Kevin Magnussen. What is going on? Well, it looks as if it's going to be a very, very just simple stint there. I think Daniel Ricciardo's also made a move on someone. He now appears to be the man right behind Nico Hülkenberg. So he is now going to try and get past his very slow teammate after that front wing issue. Hülkenberg's already managed to get past his fellow compatriot, but now down this second back straight, will Kevin Magnussen be able to get past Rosberg? He can't. He looks up the inside, but decides against it. We have to turn out the corner again, and Hülkenberg launches himself up the inside, and we just give him the room there, having to turn out the corner again. Fernando Alonso is now the man behind us in 6th place. He's managed to funnel his way through that group now, and down into turn 1, Magnussen very slow. We have to turn out the corner yet again for the 3rd time to avoid the Dane. This time we get round the outside of him. Vettel has pitted. Alonso and Ricciardo now are on the back of this group, and what has this race descended into? Absolute carnage is what this race has descended into. On to lap 8, Hülkenberg now. He's unable to get past Nico Rosberg as well. We found ourselves in 4th after this massive, just ridiculousness that is going on. Kevin Magnussen is trying to pass us now down the back straight as we go through the kink. He decides to duck out of it in the end. And now down into turn 5, we go yet more front wing there as Hülkenberg parks on the apex. Alonso going around the outside of Magnussen and Ricciardo trying to do likewise, and Rosberg is just holding everyone up here in 2nd. Lewis Hamilton is getting away just miles away in front. Hülkenberg here, who's already got damage to his front wing. We're trying to get around the outside of him, but poor traction means Hülkenberg holds onto the position. Magnussen and Alonso alongside each other behind. Then it's Ricciardo down into this right-hand corner, and still Hülkenberg. How have you not managed to get past Rosberg? He's going about 20 miles an hour into every braking zone. Vettel, of course, has pitted, which has unleashed the rest of the field. We've been hit by Magnussen from behind. That's going to try and get Magnussen now. He's going to try and go right round the outside of us. We managed to hold on. Now Alonso going up the inside of him. Hamilton sets the fast lap of the race down into this left-hand corner. We've broken ourselves under the tunnel, and we're going to have to reverse out here. We've already lost 5 places. Button's gone through. Kvyat, Bottas, Verne, Kobayashi, Perez and Gutierrez follow suit, and now we are down into 15th place. From one mistake, we've dropped 11 positions now, and this is absolute carnage. My radio engineer is telling me that people need to start coming in onto intermediates, and that is duly what everyone's doing. Seeing as I've made this mistake, I might as well just risk it for a chocolate biscuit. We've stayed out. Everyone else has pitted. They're all going to get stacked. Into the pit lane comes Rosberg, having held up everyone. Vettel's down in 21st, having pitted. And now I think we just need to assess the scene, assess what has gone on here, because this is absolutely ridiculous. On lap 9 here, We're back up into 4th due to people pitting. There's more front wing down to that right-hand corner. And as you can see, Hulkenberg and Rosberg have not pitted. So basically what's happened here is the track has dried up to the extent where the AI think they can come in for intermediate. So that's what they've done. We've obviously made the mistake at the corner. We're approaching now. We've dropped to the back. We've stayed out a lap extra, which is exactly what Rosberg, Hulkenberg, and I can only assume the leader Hamilton has done. We've got to pit at the end of this lap to put intermediate tyres on as we go up the inside of Hulkenberg, who's now lost his entire front wing on the back end of Nico Rosberg. Through these last few corners we go, though. An absolute carnage going on. Vettel's now at the back, having broken his entire front wing on Nico Rosberg, who clearly has some sort of brake issue. That's why he's holding up the entire pack. It's meant that Lewis Hamilton has a really clear lead. Now we come in, though. No danger of us being stacked, which would, of course, been the case on the last lap had we come in, because Fernando Alonso came in. We've decided to put the intermediate tyres on. That's absolutely fine. We've been held a little bit there as Rosberg and now Hulkenberg comes in. He now peels into his pit box to stick a set of intermediate tyres on and have a front wing change. And now we've just got to see where we come out in retrospect to the rest of the field. Through comes Massa and a few others. Massa, Ricciardo, Alonso and Magnussen are going to go through. So that's a few positions we've lost. We're down into 7th place, but having been in 15th, this looks as if it was the right strategic call. Perez, though, is going to try and go right around the outside of us. He does indeed do that, and just, I think, very, very close. But he's now trying to get right around the outside of Nico Rosberg. I think he's going to do that now down into turn 4, and he is. Rosberg's slow, which means we can now duck back up the inside of him. And finally, we've managed to dispatch Rosberg. Likewise, Perez, Massa, Ricciardo, and Alonso have done as well. But Rosberg, clearly no issue with his straight line speed, because he's going to try and get back up the inside of us, and has done. Julie got past, but he'll brake very early with that braking issue, and we go back up the inside of him now at the end of Sector 1. So let's just take stock. Clearly the overcut worked. Clearly the AI came in a lap too early, is basically what's happened. To put on the intermediate tyres. They didn't have enough grip, and so staying out that extra lap has worked out fantastically for ourselves. As you can see on the screen is the classification. Rosberg holding up a massive train of cars, which will interchange massively because they're going to get held up by him. Hamilton, though, still leading this race, and just what is going on? On to lap 14, we've got a dot there off on the side of the track. That is Felipe Massa, who was retired from the race. Not entirely sure why or for what reason, which is exactly the same thing, but we'll ignore that. Felipe Massa, though, off on the escape road, and he is retired from the race on lap 14. Now moving on to lap 16, and we are starting to catch Sergio Perez. Of course, we've not got an issue now of Rosberg holding up an absolute train, so there's 3 cars getting away in front. I can reiterate that is Daniel Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso, and Kevin Magnussen are the guys in front of myself and Sergio Perez. So we're going to try and dispatch Sergio Perez now and try and take 5th place. Having been in 15th place, obviously got like 10 people back through the pit stops, then past Rosberg and Massa, who of course retired as we go wide there through the final corner, and now starting lap 17. As you can see there on the timing screens, by the looks of things on the left-hand side, Jenson Button has now managed to take 7th place from Rosberg, who will have inherited that when Felipe Massa retires. So Button is the first man. He's the pioneer species. If you do A-level biology, you'll know what that is. If you don't, then have fun learning what that is. It's boring as hell, but still, he is the pioneer to get past Nico Rosberg and into 7th place. So Rosberg drops to 8th. In our immediate future, though, we are bearing down on Perez, even without the DRS, of course, in these intermediate conditions, and we lunge up the inside at the back end of the straight, having found a bit of pace now as the track starts to dry. As you can see, there's not as much spray, and now moving on to lap 19, there's hardly any spray whatsoever. So are we going to come in and put on a set of dry tyres? A few guys in front of us look as if they have. Magnussen's interestingly stayed out. We're going to come in and put a dry set on. Alonso has come in front of us, and so has Daniel Ricciardo. So they're clearly going for a dry set of tyres. They think that it's time for dry tyres right now. And into the pit lane, but of course, we're going to get stacked because Alonso's only just been into the pit lane. We do thankfully not get held up too much by that. We have lost about 2 or 3 seconds, though, in waiting for the pit crews to get ready, but we have stuck on a set of prime tyres, meaning we are now intending to go to the end. But as you can see, Sergio Perez has come out behind us, and I think we'll check in a minute, but was he on intermediate tyres? So I think Sergio Perez may have stuck another set of intermediate tyres. Look at how dry the track is, man. Why would it be another set of intermediate? He has. Sergio Perez has put another set of intermediate tyres on. This is absolutely catastrophic. Well, of course, if Sergio Perez has put intermediate tyres on, this of course means that Fernando Alonso and Daniel Ricciardo could have also put intermediate tyres on. You can now see the dry line has developed. This is pretty much dry conditions. I'm having no issues whatsoever on my prime tyres, and we've managed to stretch a massive gap over Sergio Perez just through 3 corners alone. So of course, if Alonso and Ricciardo have done the same thing, we could be about to leapfrog them, having done an extra pit stop, and we are. Alonso and Ricciardo now come into the pit lane as we now start lap 21. And they've done an extra pit stop. Out of the pit lane comes a Lotus now, and this is Kevin Magnussen, who's done exactly the same as well. He's now on a set of option tyres, though, so we're going to have to try and get past him, then hold him off for the rest of the race. We do just about hang it around the outside, only just, though, as another Lotus has come out of the pit lane just before. But we are now in second due to AI stupidity. We managed to hold off Perez, then leapfrog Alonso and Ricciardo in the pit lane, and then get around the outside of Magnussen as well. This is absolutely astonishing here. On to lap 21. What a crazy race this has been. As you can see, a classification will now be appearing on the screen. Hamilton is leading this one from myself, Magnussen. Then it should be Alonso and Ricciardo, I think, behind, and then Sergio Perez, with Rosberg still holding up everyone an absolute treat on in 8th place. But now, of course, he's holding up everyone to such an extent, we've now caught the gaggle of literally about 11 cars being held up by him. Ericsson's parked it on the apex, and Magnussen, with an opportunistic move, has made it through. But now through the last corner, we dump it right round the outside of him again on those option tyres, right round the outside of the day. We get DRS from the back end of Jean-Eric Vergne, who peels out of the way. This is absolute carnage. Now down into turn 1, and there's yet look at the amount of cars that need to be lapped. This is beyond a joke. We've set the fastest lap of the race. Max Chilton, Julie gets out of the way. He's on prime time. It seems as if Magnussen, Ricciardo and Alonso, I think, are the only people on the option tyres in the entire field. We managed to pick up DRS from being behind Max Chilton. Magnussen, of course, they will get DRS from us as well as we clip the wall on the inside. But now down into this left-hand corner, we've gone purple again. But now Romain Grosjean has got to get out of the way. And then Sebastian Vettel, who is being lapped in 14th. He's lost his front wing, can I just say, twice in this race. Not only once, he's had to pit twice more than everyone else, but he's getting in the way of us, an absolute treat. He skates out wide and finally gets out of the way in the end, and then out of the way of Magnussen as well. Now moving on to lap 23, Kamui Kobayashi's getting out of the way in 12th place. He's only a few places away from points, and now we can see another Marussia. This time is Jules Bianchi, who's so close to points here. Daniel Ricciardo has set fastest lap. This is ridiculous. I'm sorry, this is ridiculous. The amount of cars in the close proc, the amount of crap that is going on currently in this race is beyond belief. Jules Bianchi is going to have to get out of the way of us. He's in 11th place. Thank you very much, Jules. Does a very good job of getting out of the way. And Magnussen behind us. Finally, we managed to dispatch that entire group, moving on to lap 27, who are still, as you can see on the mini-map, they're still stuck behind Nico Rosberg. How he is holding on to 8th, I will never know, but in the meantime, we are holding on slightly more comfortably in front of the Dane Kevin Magnussen at the moment for 2nd place, which we've hardly discussed whatsoever at the moment. Now moving on to the penultimate lap of the race, we've lost a bit of our front wing, and we've also starting to feel the effects of tyre wear, as Daniel Ricciardo makes a fantastic move around the outside of Kevin Magnussen there at the back end of the back straight there. And now on to this penultimate lap of the race, we've now got Daniel Ricciardo, who's one of the quickest men on track. Hamilton is the fastest man on track there with a 1:44.8. But Daniel Ricciardo now, as we head down towards the Singapore Sling, is right behind us, and we're doing a pretty good job of holding these guys off. Of course, on these prime tyres, whereas everyone else was on option tyres, so we've done all right. I haven't really mentioned that, actually, but we've done an okay job. Fairly comfortable, not really that bad, but it's starting to get a little bit worse. Lewis Hamilton has won the race already. We are 1 minute 16 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. That is how much Rosberg held us up in that first stint. To top it all off, Hamilton does another fastest lap of the race on the final lap. We've clubbed the curb, though, on the inside through the left-hand corner, and now Daniel Ricciardo is trying to get up the inside of us through the Singapore Sling yet again. It's a carbon copy of the last lap, but yet again, we do hold on as fireworks are being let off to celebrate the winner being Lewis Hamilton. Of course, we haven't even finished yet. We're not even close to finish. Lewis Hamilton has surely taken the most dominant victory in Formula 1 history today here in Singapore. We are just about holding on in front of Ricciardo and Magnussen. Magnussen, of course, if he had just held on in front of Ricciardo for 2 more laps, would have got his first podium, I do believe, of this season. It should still be a very good points haul for him, because I think we've got another 30-second gap over Alonso, Button and Perez occupying 5th, 6th and 7th. So we are going to finish 2nd, 3rd and 4th. In what order, I'm not entirely sure. We managed to make it under the bridge unscathed, unlike earlier on in the race. I think it was lap 8. And we are now going to come surely through the last few corners. We managed to hold off Ricciardo. We've actually managed to pull out a gap there through this final sector. Through the last corner we come, and we are going to finish 2nd here in Singapore. What a crazy race that is. Absolutely ridiculous. Just strange, weird, odd, whatever weird adjective you can think. Just every single part of that race was completely and utterly strange. Just absolutely everything. Literally, from that auto spin curb right at the start to Rosberg's brake failure, to the pit stops, to making a mistake, to the AI making an extra pit stop the lap before it was dry enough for dry conditions. Just everything. Front wings breaking off left, right and centre. Absolutely stupid. You'll have seen the full race result in the background. Here is how that race result affects the Drivers' Championship. Lewis Hamilton top now by 27 points after Nico Rosberg's unfortunate bad result, really, due to those brakes, due to that brake failure. He is now second, 27 points off his teammate. Then it's Ricciardo, myself now in fourth, from Vettel, Alonso, Hülkenberg, Massa, Button and Magnussen, who's now only 1 point behind his teammate, and then 2 behind Massa due to that fantastic fourth place. Then it's Perez, Bottas, Kobayashi, Sutil, and now Gutierrez having scored 2 points, or was it 1 point? I think it was 2 points. He is now above the 2 Toro Rossos. Here is how that affects the Constructors' Championship now as well. Mercedes still clear, 133 points in front of Red Bull. Then it's Ferrari at Force India. Then I think McLaren and then Williams. Sauber have now actually leapfrogged Caterham as well for 7th place due to that double point scoring finish. I think it was Gutierrez came 9th and Sutil came 10th. So a very good result for those guys, although they were 2 laps down. Everyone from Rosberg was 2 laps down. Alonso and Perez and Button from 5th to 7th were 1 lap down. But a good result there for Gutierrez and Sutil. Grosjean, unfortunately, just missing out on a point. But what a crazy... it wasn't even, like, that exciting from, like moves and just awesome racing. It was just utterly strange. Just everything... I even know. I'm just going to try and get my breath back. But I do hope you did enjoy that episode round Singapore. Just the craziest race. The stupidest race I think I've ever driven on any F1 game ever. Feel free to drop a like if you did enjoy this video. Comment about enjoying it if you enjoyed the video that much. And subscribe if you're new around here. Liking, of course, just tells me that you are enjoying the series. But in the meantime, it has been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. And enjoy the highlights.